4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Films in Black and White, everybody. How are you all doing? It's a great day today. A new day, just a new vibe going through everywhere, which is just fantastic. This is season 2, episode 3, the podcast Ultimatum, because that is the third Bourne movie in that particular series. So,
that's right.
Finished out Bourne movies to start off the second season. We got a big episode to get to. We have, as you can see, we have a guest joining us today, and we'll touch base with her in a second. We got a movie to review. Just got a lot to get into. So, if you don't know, my name is Doug Wagner. I'm one of the co-hosts for Films in Black and White. Just been kind of kicking it this past week, trying to enjoy what I can, but I have to invite my other hosts into this shindig as well. So I'm going to kick it on down to the bottom right square with the one, the only Marcus J. Destin. Marcus, how you doing?
Oh, it is Inauguration Monday. I watch a lot of shit, put a period in a lot of shit today. So I am really feeling it today. It's like it was like out with the old and out with the trash and in with the new. And I don't know what the new holds, but it can't be much worse than the last. You know what I'm saying? So
That's a very good point.
You know what? It was a good day today. I'm not putting it's not, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah, that's fair.
So just like, woo, that was refreshing to get through without hatred. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I don't know if anybody else was like sitting there, like holding onto the table, like, oh, no.
Oh, God.
Like, here we go.
Like, how far could a sniper have to be in order to make
doing
it
like
work?
math and
Yes.
which way is the wind coming from? Like, it's like trying to do physics homework.
It was great. And one of the things, and not to be long, one of the best things I saw was Joe Biden, like right before this, he was talking to his new cabinet, or he was inducting his new people. And one of the things he said was, and I'm not joking when I say this, I will fire you if you're ever talking down on anyone or belittling anyone. I will fire you right on the spot. And I was like,
good.
Here we go.
Oh.
Like,
Yeah,
let's get to it. Let's get to it. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great.
That's good. And we also have to invite our other co-host into this as well. Mr. Brian Roush. Brian, how are you doing? Brian Roush.
You know what? Marcus he's got my vibe. It does. I don't know. It feels new. It feels fresh. It just recently snowed here in the Chicago area. So I was out with my kids and shoveling today, and it felt fresh. It was nice powdery snow. And I don't know. And then we went in and watched the inauguration, and just, I don't know. It's good vibes. Like, it's good. Something new.
I like that.
So yes, I'm feeling good. That's the main point of that. I'm feeling good.
Great. Brian, do you get into this battle with yourself as a homeowner to purchase a snowblower or not? I'm just curious.
Oh, it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
I bought one.
Okay. I keep going back and forth on it, and I'm like, do I buy one? And then if I buy one, will I use it? So I've been putting it off.
You will.
For years.
So fun fact, really quick. I'm gonna pull them real quick. I promise. So when we first moved in the house, I was like, Maggie, we don't need a snowblower. I'm from Minnesota. And then we did one winter, and I'm like, I'm not doing that again. I'm never doing that again.
That's hilarious.
So we got a snowblower, and it's electric, and it's nice, and it's battery. So yeah, that's what
your response is better than mine. And Brittany goes like, man, should this be the year that we get, a snowblower? And I go, I work out. I am the snowblower. Like, it's just awful attitude. It's gross. After I say it, I have to take a shower because I'm like, ew. But
man,
I am
your back. Well, thank you.
I am the one who blows.
I'm going to start calling you Mr. Plow.
That's fine. That's totally fine. Well, as you can hear, and as for those of you who are, tier 2 folks on our Patreon can see, we are joined by a lovely guest, and I'm going to actually kick it over to Brian to introduce our guest this week. So, Brian, who we have joining us?
Today, we invited Jessica Jones to join us in talking about the movie Promising Young Woman. She has her master's in film and literature. I also know her a lot from Twitter and Facebook, and we have talked about movies quite a bit. You might have seen me discuss some of the things that she has talked about and generated thought in me on Twitter. So yes, I'd like to invite our guest, Jessica Jones. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, I'm so thrilled to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Happy to have you. You are
yeah,
burdened
so
with being the female voice on a podcast that talks about this movie in particular. So
I am thrilled to be the female voice that gets to talk about the movie
Good.
because I had been looking forward to this movie for over a year when it was showed at Sundance last year. I used to go to Sundance every year.
That's right.
Oh,
And
super cool.
I was so sad I didn't get to see it, and I've been waiting to see it for so long, and then it kept getting delayed because of COVID. But I kept hearing about this crazy ending that made all these people at Sundance walk out, and it was this talk of the town, but I had no idea what it was. And I was so paranoid about spoilers, and
Yep.
I really didn't want to have any spoilers before, and so I'm very thankful it was not spoiled for me at all. And I think
Awesome.
that's very crucial. Seeing
Sure.
the movie is not
Yes.
knowing the ending. But yeah, so I know Brian from we went to undergrad together. We've known each other
Yep.
now for like, oh my God,
gosh.
like 15 years at least. That's crazy.
That is
Think?
Funny how
it is
fast time
15
goes.
years.
Oh my God, yeah.
So-
Wow, we're old. But
Oh my gosh. So I guess
yeah.
if anyone from Cornell College, like alumni
Yeah.
relations, is listening, you got 3/4 of Cornell
true.
College
Look at that.
alumni here.
That's a very good
Marcus is
point.
also here.
we
But
stay connected.
And also Marcus.
I didn't know how to phrase
It's the
it. Like,
Cornell crew and Marky.
And Marcus.
Oh
It's like,
man.
all right.
That's
Okay.
nice.
but yeah,
Awesome.
we're really happy you're here.
Thrilled
Hell
that you are
Yes.
joining us.
And I'm glad you guys had enough mind to invite a woman to
Yeah,
join.
thank you. Yeah,
We
we
try
don't
to do our best.
we
We
don't
miss
always
it
get it right,
sometimes.
but yeah. So Jessica, we play a game here on
Whoa. Doug Wagner,
what?
how are you?
I introduced myself at the beginning. There is no need to backtrack, Marcus.
I
I'm
don't know. No, but how are you?
How are
I
you?
mean, I'm good. I'm doing well. I mean,
How am I?
how
Yeah.
how am I? No, I'm doing good. I mean, it's a good vibe. We're potty training almost 2-year-old, so there's that
Oof.
constant hell that I'm going through. That is
Yep.
trying to teach a person to use the toilet.
Oh, thank you. Brian will tell you I am not a fan of babies or children at
Nope.
all, and
Nope.
so that to me is like a waking nightmare.
I love my children, but this is not fun. And it's not. It's one of those two things you don't want to have to do. The first is sleep training, and the second is potty training, and after that, it's fine. Like, so I
Yep.
don't want to do either one of those, but it's going well. School is school. We are back in full force at the University of South Dakota. And things are going well. So just happy to see how things are going on that. So things are going on
Awesome.
that end. So
There it is.
well, anyway, but so back to what I was getting to anyway. But Jessica, we play a game here on our podcast called Catch That Quotable. And that is when we have a guest, we invite a guest to give us a quote, and then we promptly get 3 tries to get it wrong. The goal is for us to get it right, but it almost never happens. And so we just want to invite you to give us your quote for this week and to basically see if you can get us to get it. So what do you have for us?
Oh gosh. Okay. This is a good one. Okay.
All right.
Okay. The royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
Got it off the rip. What is coming to America?
Correct.
There you go.
Gosh.
Oh my God.
It's because where I'm facing my desk, I have my Funko of
Ooh.
Brandon Watson.
I love it.
Oh
One of
my
my
gosh.
absolute-
Love it.
Okay.
One of my absolute favorite comedies of all time.
Oh, that
Wow.
is amazing. I can't wait for the sequel to come out too. It looked pretty good.
Oh.
I was worried, but it looks pretty good from the trailer.
It could be terrible, but the trailer makes it look really fun
Yes.
and heartfelt, and I'm
Yes.
excited. I can't help it. I love it.
I
So
gotta
me
be
too.
honest. I think that might be the fastest correct guess
That was
in the history of our podcast. I got it right off the rip.
I tried to
didn't
tell y'all that we have a vibe. Like as soon as I hopped on, it was an instantaneous connection.
Yeah,
I got
so
it.
we're here.
yeah.
You know, I mean-
They're gonna act like they haven't met before, but on a previous plane, they were like best friends.
They ran into each other.
Basically how it
Yeah.
works.
This is the second time, but I just need to point out the second time that like we have a guest and Marcus is like, I got it. We're done. Moving on. Like, so like Marcus is fantastic
You
with
just
guests.
got it.
on their
Good.
You just got it. Well, awesome.
you're like
Well,
the Andy Richter on the
that's
podcast.
basically, yeah.
Thank you.
So great. Well, I mean, I expected that to last a little bit longer, but shit,
That's
we got to
fine.
that, like in record-setting pace, which is fine.
I mean,
I should have picked a harder one.
No,
No,
you're
that's
fine.
totally fine. That's
you
totally
kidding?
fine. So this week we are covering Promising Young Woman. And before we kick it over to Marcus to give us his barbershop summary, which by the way, I am eagerly awaiting this summary of this movie. I'm just going to run down some really, really quick, fast facts about it. Just stuff that I pulled from either IMDb or just Rotten Tomatoes or wherever I can get this information from. So, Promising Young Woman, as Jessica mentioned, debuted at the Sundance Film Festival a year ago. It was written and directed by Emerald Fennell. And it stars Carey Mulligan as Cassandra, Bo Burnham as Ryan, Allison Brie as Madison, Laverne Cox, but I didn't find her name, or I just didn't connect it. So if you remember it, let me know. Overall, the movie has gotten a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. And as we've kind of touched on, this is a weird time to release a movie and to try to report box office numbers, but the box office numbers to date for this particular movie is $2.7 million. And I could not find a budget in the research that I had done. So that's just kind of the general overall fast facts, things that you got to know before we get into it. This is another good time for us to mention that this is a spoiler included podcast. So if you want to see Promising Young Woman and you don't want us to give anything away, stop now, watch it, and come back to us a little bit later. Brian, what'd you have?
I just wanted to include here, a lot of the movies we do talk about are like R or PG-13, but I do want to say this is like the trigger warning part that this movie gets into a lot of
Good call.
a lot of deep subjects. We're talking like there's a trigger warning for self-harm, there's a trigger warning for assault, sexual assault. So if any of those topics are not something you want to listen to right now and talking about this movie, this is a good time to get on that exit ramp, and you can check us out next week.
Yeah, agreed. Totally. Thank you. I'm glad that
great
you did
point,
that.
Brian.
That's a good call. Marcus,
Well said.
Yes.
do you want to give us your barbershop summary for this particular movie?
Yes. Laverne Cox's character is Gail. Is named Gail.
Gail. Okay.
Gail.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
Gail. I don't know why I was thinking something else. Okay. I mean, where do we start?
Boy.
Boy. I bet. So this what had happened. What happened was there's this woman. All right, there's this promising young woman. See what I did there? There's this promising young woman who she is out there like a vigilante. Okay, we're talking vigilante. She is out there. She is out there putting people on the spot. Okay, you see what I'm saying? You got McLovin from Superbad, who is an asshole. You got Brody from Shazam. He is also an asshole. So what she does is she sets herself out there like bait, okay? And she acts like she's super duper drunk. Okay, so you have this woman who out there, she's gonna act like she's drunk, she's gonna act like she's incapacitated, she don't know what's going on, she's so confused, she's so overwhelmed. And then you got these crummy little guys who gonna come in there and take advantage. And she know they're gonna come in there and take advantage because she been doing this for a minute, because she got a little book and they got tallies. I don't know who counts by tallies anymore, but I mean, that's another thing for another time. So she got this book filled with tallies, and what she does is she plays bait, and when she acts like she's too drunk or too high or too whatever, she these guys will try to take advantage of her, or they make this move on her while knowing that she's too drunk. And what she does is she snaps out of it real quick and scares the hell out of them, and does things that I never really got an answer to what it is that she does to them. But basically that's what happens. So these guys get all messed up, but then she falls in love, and then there's this history of there's this trauma that she has about her best friend and not being there for her best friend. So really that's the reason that she's doing it. She's not just doing it just to do it. She really trying to avenge not being there for her friend. And in that she runs into some old classmates. She runs into a dean. We look at higher education. We look at all this stuff and how they mishandled this entire experience or entire investigation, and how she's been living with this trauma while everybody else has just moved the hell on. So it's really this movie about, damn, that's crazy. That's about this. That's what I got.
You know, again, your synopsis there was really kind of spot on without giving away like the intimate details, because you could really get into the weeds on it.
It's
you gave
hard.
a great overview. So again, kudos
Well
to
done.
you for
Thank
that
you.
particular
Thank you.
summary. So let's get into it.
Wait,
Let's
hold on.
do it.
Let's
Hold
just
on.
kind of go ahead. What?
I kind of want to do what Brian is doing. Okay.
Okay.
I want to give a fair warning that it's going to be a lot of jokes, not about some of the things that happen in here, but this is also, I'm going to remind everybody, we're a big podcast that's big on identity. And so
Cool.
our podcast is based around, if you're going to a movie with a bunch of friends or whatever the case may be, it's about witnessing it from the eyes of your identity. So it's very important to remember that our perspective could be very much so dead wrong.
Yeah,
But we
accurate.
have somebody here who we're not going to put the entire representation on Jess's shoulders, and
Yep.
we're here to learn, and we're here to figure out things, but we're here to also still dissect the movie and get it from our perspectives. And if we're wrong in that, remember that we are men, and men, we're still learning, and we're human, and we're still learning. So there may be some things we're not here to offend anybody or misrepresent anybody or anything, or victim blame or anything like that. We are just breaking down this movie in particular.
Yeah.
So I just want to put
and I
that
think
out.
the other thing to
Well
note,
said.
I think the
Thank you.
other thing to note on that, and I completely agree, that was very well said. I think the four of us here in this space have created a safe space amongst each other. So I think that's the other thing to know, that we may ask a question that anywhere else is something maybe you should kind of keep to yourself and maybe not ask that out loud. But we're going to try and look at the movie as a movie. And as Marcus mentioned, this is not a commentary on those who are victims of sexual violence or sexual assault. And remember, the statistics are 1 in 2 and 1 in 3, I believe. 1 in 2 females and 1 in 3 males will be victims of sexual assault over the course of time. And that's kind of what the national trends are. So just to kind of be aware of that. But that being said, let's get into it. What are... So we kind of take it from the good, the bad, and the ugly, but I do want us to just kind of keep this a little bit more free-flowing this week, since we have a guest of what are pieces of this particular movie that really worked? What are things that we liked? What are things that really just got us excited? And Jess, why don't you start us off, since you are our guest? What are things
Sure.
about this movie after watching that you just connected with and just really, really enjoyed?
Right off the bat, I like to just kind of look at all the different areas of the film. And so the things that really struck me after I was walking out, the soundtrack and the needle drops that happened, especially in the final scene when Angel of the Morning starts up, and it's building up towards something triumphant and amazing. And then I'm so curious about the choice of Paris Hilton's song being the song that they sing along to in the drugstore, but I found that was really cute and charming, and overall the music was just very well done, and was one of the things I really liked. I think the colors and the the set design, the costuming, her hair, her nails, everything was all these like beautiful pastel, like Easter egg colors that make you think of girls and femininity and all these things. And then it was very much juxtaposed at the nighttime when she would be out hunting for men, or doing any of her sort of evil deeds that she would be doing. And so that was something that I found very striking. Obviously, the performances are amazing. Like Carrie, probably the best Carrie Mulligan has been since Shame, which is another huge film I love, and I love her performance in that. I honestly don't think she's ever put out a bad performance.
For sure.
But this was just on a whole nother level that had so much nuance to it, because she's obviously a character who is very damaged, has tons of trauma, but has this evil, sinister thing in her that is craving vengeance. And, we talk about vengeance a lot in like superhero movies and these sort of fantastical situations. That's kind of how we see vengeance a lot these days.
Yeah.
This is a very personal vengeance, very, very one person army going out.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, all of those things. And I loved the twist of the end. And the ending I feel is extremely controversial and what is causing a lot of controversy with the film. But I'll go on record and say I loved the ending, because that's something a lot of people hate, or would be the ugly. For me,
Yeah.
it's the good.
For sure. That's
Just-
really cool.
What I mean, if we can get into it, we're
Yeah.
talking about
Sure.
the ending, and I think that might be, I don't want to speak for all of us, but that might be one of the good for all of us is the twist at the end. What about the ending did you like, and what about the ending makes it controversial?
So for a lot of people who are saying it's controversial, a large portion of the people who are very offended and unhappy with it are sexual assault survivors.
Sure.
And
sure.
a large part of that is, and I completely understand why they are upset and why they don't like the ending, because basically you've taken two women that suffered amazing trauma. One has killed herself in the past, as we learned that her best friend did. And then she is basically on a very self-destructive path, heading towards what is questionably suicide. She's putting herself in an extremely dangerous situation that she knows she may not come out of, which is why she sets up the pre-scheduled texts, why she works with the lawyer. And as people see that as sexual assault survivors, that is basically sending a message to other sexual assault survivors that you know there is no happy ending. Like it won't get better. It's kind of what a lot of people are saying. And rightly so. They're like saying that is not the message that we need to be putting out there. Sure. And a lot of people felt a bit hoodwinked that this was like a Me Too revenge story and she was going to come out on top, and be the hero. But you know, heroes sacrifice themselves a lot.
Sure.
Right.
And that is such a classic trope. And I love that you brought up the slash marks that she was keeping, because if you remember, the movie is actually broken out into 5 acts where it has the numbers before them. It's the same format that Shakespeare always used with his tragedies.
Okay.
Sure.
And so to break it up into those 5 acts,
cool.
it's a very Shakespearean tragedy in that way, that you have a hero who ultimately is doing the right thing, but dies.
Right.
And to counter that, the thing I actually liked about the film was, as much as I want to hear stories of sexual assault survivors going on to be very powerful and getting over their trauma, that is not really what happens a lot. You do have a lot of women who commit suicide who never get over their trauma or their assaults or their rapes, and can't move on. And I think the biggest issue is the fact that Emerald Fennell basically is glamorizing this lack of ability to move on.
Sure.
So I totally understand the criticisms, and I understand how divisive it is. I like a really dark and demented story. And I like when someone has the balls to go to a very dark place. So I really appreciated it. I understand why other people really don't. And some people see it as being very anti-feminist, enjoying the ending and things like that. But I like a good movie also. It's a movie.
Right.
And a good ending would not be her carving Nina's name into his body and running away. Like, would she ever really move on? No.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a good
question.
ending.
That's a good question to ask. I'm curious, Brian and Marcus, your thoughts on the ending, if they are at all, you know, just again, knowing ourselves and our identities and our perspectives. From y'all's perspective, how did you all feel about the ending and that particular twist there as well?
Marcus, do you want to go?
If you're ready to go, you can go, Brian.
All right. Yeah. I
guys just did the Spider-Man like pointing at each other.
Well, I was like, if you're good to go, you're good. But if you need time to think, I'm ready. Like,
we're very polite. We're very polite on this podcast.
Wow. Oh, please, don't you?
Please.
The first time ever.
Honestly, oh my gosh, the entire ending from the moment Britney Spears' Toxic starts playing, like as she's walking up the driveway, so I watched this with Maggie, and like I like just clenched up. I was like, there's no version of this that like I don't know how you end it well. Like you're alone. There's no like there was one way I knew this could end, like Bo Burnham like comes to save the day, and I was like, that just doesn't feel like this movie. Like it doesn't, like I don't know how you would reconcile it with everything that happens like the sequence prior. So let me put it this way. I was shocked by the ending, and as a piece of art, I appreciated that because I didn't expect it to end that way. I expected her to like get out and like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm really into superheroes and like maybe it's because I'm a generally positive person, but I was like, no, like this is her journey. Like she's gonna win. She has to like fulfill this vengeance.
She did win.
And then but and then at the end you just have Piz, that's not his name, but he's from Veronica Mars, the actor from Veronica Mars, like just like brutally suffocating this woman. I'll say it out loud. Like
for 2 minutes, and there's no music.
There was
all. It is
it was visceral and brutal, and like I'm uncomfortable talking about it, and maybe that's a good thing of just like how it's presented, and like it stuck with me. Like it did her entire journey stuck with me, and like I don't know, when I think about art, like did it move you one way or another? Did you hate it? Did it make you feel sad? Did it make you feel happy? It made me shocked. Like I don't know if I'm sad. I don't know how to talk about exactly how I'm feeling. It's just more of this like anguish, surprise. I'm sure there's like a word in another language that I'm totally missing, but just like that's, I don't know. That's kind of how it left me. Like, just, wow. I don't know. I enjoy the ending as a piece of art. I totally hear what Jessica is saying though, about in regards to how other like survivors are going to see it. I get it, but I also feel this is the point I'm trying to make. I promise. I think this movie is for people maybe who are maybe not as exposed to these types of realities. Like if you have never had someone in your life talk to you about this, talk about assault, talk about how no one's believed you, how you have all these feelings, and like it feels like you can't do this. Like if you've never had that experience, this movie does a really good job of being like, this is what it's like. This is a pretty good picture of what those feelings are like and how people can feel so isolated and alone and be driven to these self-destructive behaviors. I think in that regard, it succeeds with that type of audience, like 100% in my view. So Marcus, what's up, man?
Sure.
That was good, Brian. I think I first of all, I didn't see it coming. So that was number one. I didn't see this entire movie coming, to be honest. Because I was telling Doug before we watched it, I was like, I don't really want to watch this because I don't know. I can't remember what it was. It was like I couldn't put into words why, but I just felt like it was going to be one of those films where I just was going to feel icky and disgusting. And just was like, oh, people are just so like fucking nasty. But then like I was texting the group and I was like, oh my God. And then literally 5 minutes, I was like, bruh, oh, what the hell? Because I just didn't know. I didn't know what else to do. So as far as the ending though, that suffocation scene, that I it's going to sound weird when I say this. I enjoyed that because it showed you the rawness of real suffocation. This is not like in a movie where you put the pillow over somebody and it's 30 seconds of struggling and then they die.
And just moving on.
And then they're just like, oh, yep, they did. There goes the limp hand. This was what I imagined. Somebody did research and said, how much force does it take and how long would it take to live in that moment?
His knee, like that stands out to me.
Face.
Like just
it was just and I think for me, I literally was watching and was like, wait, he's still going. And
I know that's how I reacted.
And it was like kudos to the guy from Veronica Mars, because the expression and the acting he was doing while he was suffocating her really felt like, oh my God, like it went past self-defense and went straight into I'm trying to silence you because you know something that is going to come back and bite me in the ass.
That is perfect.
That's what it felt like.
Yep.
So for me, I enjoyed the ending. And she did win. I don't know what I was expecting. She won because I see you, Brian. She won for me because she sacrificed herself to play the long game.
Yeah,
exactly.
And if she never would have done that, she knows that while some people, this is going to be hard. Some people voices are more powerful when they're gone. Like if we're looking at past holiday, Martin Luther King,
Okay.
When he was alive, he was under investigation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Everybody cherry picks a quote. They pick what they want to post, and they do that, and they feel like these words are some of the greatest words. Some people, they can do more in death and mean more as a martyr or as this symbol, as opposed to, unfortunately, like, this is realistic, right? Unfortunately, when they're alive, their voice is not heard as loud as it would be as if they were dead or gone.
Also, like, a murder has so much more impact than another rape or another sexual assault.
Right.
Which
I
is
thought,
sad.
I thought maybe that's how it was going, that she was going to basically like fake a rape or fake a gang rape even at this bachelor party and record it and then turn him into the police. But I feel like even then it probably wouldn't have gone anywhere. And it's like, it had to be death. It had to be murder in order for him to really go away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
He suffered for one. He suffered for one thing, but now is going to pay the price for everything that he did.
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. But they don't get there until we get this ending.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And I think I'm actually kind of a combination of Brian and Marcus, to be honest with you. When the ending first came around, I remember being pissed because I initially and I wanted it. I was pissed because I was like, I had watched her, especially after the scene where she wanders out of her house and she's dealing with this emotional like realization that Bo Burnham was a part of this, and it basically turns her whole world on her head. I was like, it's almost as if she's reliving this all over again, and she is reliving it all again.
Yeah.
There's actually a video. Just my heart ached for her, so I wanted her to win, and she did win. And so, as we're kind of talking about it now, but in that moment, I wanted it to be like, yep, she locked him up. They're all else popped up. She's going to dial the police. We're good to go. She's going to ride off into the sun. Like, that's what I wanted to happen. Like, I wanted there to be that level of healing with it. So, but I also at the same time was really, really, again, this is going to sound weird, happy that they had that character from Veronica Mars. Essentially, that's who he is now, Brian.
I'm so sorry.
We'll
look up the actor's name. I promise.
We had that character because that was the level of violence he was willing to go to protect what he had.
Yep.
And that's where you needed to see it. It wasn't like this was some accusation. You saw that what had happened. One, you never really knew, and I'm going to say their side of the story for what I was saying, but you never really knew the details. You knew her perspective from what she knew happened to her friend, but you didn't know anything else about them. It was all it was almost a little speculative of who did what. And it was kind of a crazy night and everybody was drunk. Like it was a little bit speculative, but when he turned and got that visceral, you were like, nope, this is all accurate. And he is going to this length to protect what he has from this person's voice. So, and I also think it's incredibly interesting, the idea of using your voice to speak up for those who have been victims of sexual assault. And the action he takes is to literally take her voice away.
Silence her. Yeah.
So I think that is a powerful message. And I think that was a really well done thought. And I think the turning it on the other end and having it on his happiest day have everything taken away from him, I think is also incredible symbolism too. I thought the ending was really good. My knee-jerk reaction, though, if I'm being entirely honest, was like, fuck, really? Come on.
Yeah.
She can't hop on her horse and ride off into the sunset. Like,
right.
And I think the other thing that's interesting is we talk about, like, Jess, you brought up a good point of, like, we see this in superhero movies all the time. I mean, if you look at Endgame, literally Iron Man died in order to win. And I hate to bring that up when we're talking about something serious like this, but the comparison is it's okay for him to, but we're all irritated when she does. Yeah. Does that make, like, I just think that maybe I'm looking for something where there isn't, but I think it's like, it's perfectly okay for male superheroes to die for their cause all the time. But it's the minute you put her there, maybe she's not Just a thought.
That's an interesting comparison, because that was one of my biggest gripes about Endgame, was that of all the Avengers and all the like 4,000 superheroes they had in that goddamn movie, I liked it, but let's be honest. Seriously, they permanently kill off the one female character. The one female Avenger who's been there as an OG for no seriously, you have Jeremy Renner and Scarlett Johansson standing next to each other, and you're like, Scarlett has to go.
And funny and weird and going back into representation and voices. Nobody ever wrote her the correct way. When Whedon introduced her in, when John introduced her in Iron Man 2, she was just this spy, this sexy spy. Yes, that was literally her only role. As Josh Whedon then took over the Avengers, she kind of still, this nasty fuck doesn't know how to write female. He does not. I don't know why he feels like he is the one that has to do it. But
do you know that Buffy the Vampire Slayer is my favorite show of all time, and Joss Whedon is like a golden god? He used to be a golden god to me.
Hey, listen, I grew up watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Well, not really sneaking and watching it, because I told I was gonna go to hell if I watched it. But
duh.
But like,
duh. Join the club. Welcome to the party, pal.
They told me watching wrestling would send me to hell, and I was like, how the hell is a DDT and the people's elbow going to send me to hell? But I mean, that's fine. Whatever. Anyway, don't get me on my Josh Whedon reign. Let's keep going, because I'll save mine for my good.
You're fine. You're fine.
Other things that we thought were particularly good or jumped out at us. I have to back up what Jess said about the music. The music for me, that was like the first thing that I wrote in my notes. I was like, this music is fire. Like, just the whole soundtrack, top to bottom, was just really, really, really good. Are there other pieces of this movie for Jess or Marcus or Brian that jumped out, the things that you really, really liked? Or if you have something maybe for the bad or for the ugly that you want to touch on now too, whatever you want to do.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
I do have a good that I want to, and I saw this written about in some other pieces, but I just really enjoyed how, for people like us who watch a lot of TV and a lot of movies, like, this is a cavalcade of like nice guy that you've seen in like a CW show, in like a like a Fox primetime sitcom. Like, I mean, I'm looking at the list here, by the way. The character from Veronica Mars, Piz, Chris Lowell, that is the actor's name.
I would never have even known that if you put a gun to my head.
Me either. I just knew him as Piz from Veronica Mars. But I mean, like, you have Adam Brody, who was in the OC. You have Mick Lovin. I will get his name too.
He was Christopher Mintz-Plaze.
Thank you. Thank you for not breaking up my flow. Yeah, you have and Schmidt from New Girl here too, like, also in Veronica Mars too. Like, you just have all these really nice guys, in quote. And like, I feel like, and I didn't pick up on this until the end, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it felt like they cast all these guys that we know as nice guys. They're not nice guys. And that was a good reflection point for me, because I feel like I try my best to like read up and understand and like really try to figure out how the best I can be an ally in situations like this. And you get to this point where it's like, yeah, I'm a nice guy. And then you look at the movie like this and you're like, oh man, like, they all thought they were nice guys too. And so like making sure to like check yourself too, I thought that was really poignant and really well done. That was just one of the good things I wanted to point out.
You know, the nice guy thing is very interesting, because when Me Too came out and all of us women were sharing our, swapping our horror stories and our stories of assault and things like that, whether it be, something very, very small to, unwanted touches and things like that, all the way to, horrible sexual assault and rape and things like that. But as we were all sharing our stories, it was constantly the question of, it's the impetus on the woman of like, well, she got really drunk and she passed out on this dude's bed, and like, she couldn't even consent or say no. And this idea of like, well, any guy would do that. And I'm like, that is not true, because I literally have examples of times when I've gotten blackout drunk and I went on I've gone on a first date with a guy. This is like back like in my very early 20s. Get blackout drunk, you go to his place, and I would pass out. And like, I was very, very fortunate that the guys I happened to be with were actually good guys who did not rape or assault me. But the truth is, it can happen very, very easily. And this idea that like any guy would do that and any guy would take advantage of a girl in that situation, it's just not true.
Right.
And that was something that I was very vocal about during everything happening during Me Too, that like, yes, this is an amazing opportunity for men to learn and actually take things away from this and grow and listen to us and let us speak and talk about these things in a way that I feel like this film, you know, the ending obviously is controversial, but I think the message of the film is still very important and very strong about telling stories of survivors, regardless of where they may end up. It's still a very distinct voice. And a lot of people are comparing this right now also to I May Destroy You from Michaela Cohen on HBO.
Yeah.
Which is also it's a very interesting sort of bookend with this movie, because it's about a sexual assault survivor and her path to healing and her path to growing. And for her, she does heal and she does move on and she's successful, but she still has her trauma.
Right.
And so it's very interesting to look at the two heroines of those works and compare. This person can move on and can go on to do great things as she does. A lot of other women can't do that.
Right.
And that to me was something very important about it.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I also think it's an interesting, like I'll have to watch I May Destroy You now, because I'm curious to kind of see the comparison. Because I mean, I think we in America love stories of people who are able to overcome the odds. And essentially what we're saying is that women who are victims of sexual assault and manage to make something of themselves, good for them. They overcame the odds, but we never hear about the people in the situation like Cassandra's in, where she's actively struggling. We don't hear about those. So how many more of those are out there? You know, I'm not a mathematician, so I couldn't tell you, but that's an interesting, that's an interesting thing to think about. So, absolutely. Marcus?
I think it's the one of the things that I enjoyed were the extremes. And I think the over characterization of certain of these leads, right? First, to that point, I want to make the point that Cassandra is traumatized because she lost her friend to this sexual assault. Imagine what Nina went through before she passed away.
Right.
Right. And so if this is just a ripple effect of something that happened to her friend and her feeling kind of guilty and responsible because she wasn't there, I don't want to forget, which is also part of my bad, I don't want to forget about Nina. Outside of just the quick mentionings of her name, it meant a lot more because not the entire time, for a good bulk of the film, I thought that it happened to Cassie. But it's about Nina. And yes, she's living with it, and everybody's like, oh, you should just forget about it. But she's really carrying this burden. One of the things that I really liked were the extremes. The nice guy thing. The nice guy thing was simply a shield. It is just it is just another thing to be. It's a defense to say when things get fucking disgusting and when you call me on my bullshit, hey, but don't forget I'm a nice guy, which I do feel that is male privilege, right? Because it is absolutely male privilege. Even watching listening to the black guy. I don't know what is his character name in the film, but
Brian will look it up.
Sam Richardson, I think.
Yeah, you're right. It is Sam Richardson. Yep, you're right.
So Paul in this film is playing this sleazy, this sleazy guy. Some of his dialogue was like off because he was like, "Oh, she's just mad because a woman can't make it." And I was like, "Bro, you're black. Like, what are you talking about? Like, if anybody should get it, you should get it and shut the hell up."
Yeah.
But like, they went to extremes to show us like the absolute worst of people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we have to see how ugly that is. To take us on this journey of her actually being happy and then snatching that away immediately. Holy hell. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna get in my bad. I'll get to it's not necessarily bad, but I have questions as a man that I would like some insight on. I would like some insight on that.
I think I might have the same questions.
Yeah,
because I do not know. Okay,
actually, scratch what I'm saying. I want to go straight. Let's go straight to the bad.
Let's go to the bad.
Let's do it.
The movie is good. Y'all get it. Go watch it.
Oh yeah, watch this movie.
That's the gist of it. I mean, it's written well. The
watch
dialogue.
This movie. Yeah,
it's a really good movie. The bad. Here's my bad, and it's bad because from my perspective, is there a moment? And it's not necessarily bad, but I'm just going to phrase it like this. Are there any moments of growth and forgiveness? Because, and here's why I'm asking. Bo Burnham, he is this guy who was this young kid, and he recorded this sexual assault. Let's call it what it is. Yeah. He recorded this sexual assault as a kid. Didn't do anything, but he also didn't speak up because, silence is compliance and et cetera, right? We look at Al, who is written in a way that he really does love his fiance and that he really has grown and moved on.
Yeah.
We look at Madison, who also is Maddie also was somebody who came back in her life and moved. It slowly seemed like they were all genuinely good people, quote unquote.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there moments of growth? Are there any moments that allows? I don't know. We look at them.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Do you see what I'm trying to?
Let me ask my question, because
saying.
my question is the same question.
Okay.
Is how do, and I'm just going to ask it as bluntly as possible because that's how I roll.
Let's do it.
So for Bo Burnham as a character, for his character as Ryan has been in this movie up until the discovery of his previous transgression, has been super respectful, has been understanding, has tried to carve out and make a decent life of where he is at.
Sure.
Is it fair for his character to be punished to that level of extreme that he is in the movie for something that happens? This is messy, and I realize this is a safe space. I'm asking this question.
Okay, Brian, you try and clarify.
Well, are you saying like the way that she approaches him, the way that the character Cassandra approaches him, of like she finds out he was there and she basically, you're saying like she basically blackmails him essentially. Like,
yeah.
I'm not worried. I'm gonna just say it. I'm not worried about the damn blackmail.
Okay.
From my perspective, while I'm watching this movie, and this has no correlation with what I personally believe, but my first male privilege instinct was, damn, can't nobody grow up? You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Or damn,
that's what I was trying to ask. Sorry.
Is there no space for growth and forgiveness in this instant? But that's also just me as a man.
Right.
I don't think the issue is that he was there. I think the issue was that he recorded it. He was part of it, and he knows intimately why she dropped out of school. Right. And the trauma it caused her and why she has had so many issues moving on. He knows it and he keeps it from her. It's a deception.
Sure,
and
that's fair. Okay.
It's the whole thing of like, I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you.
Right.
And then the other part of it, which I found this was very, very important, and this was very glossed over, I felt, was that it said repeatedly they were in their second year of medical school, which means these characters would have been probably 23 to 24 years old. These were not 17, 18-year-old college freshmen idiots. Yeah. I mean, I know you guys mature a lot slower than we do, but still males who are 20, I was always the oldest of my class. So like if I was in my second year of medical school, I would have been 24 years old. Yeah. But when I think of when I was 24 years old, I was working my first like serious job. I had a salary, I had an apartment, I was a grown up basically. And I know that they were still in school, but they were in medical school. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of, I was like, the whole like, we were, because when she has him tied up in the bed and Al's like, we were kids.
Yeah, she
and
says,
she's like, if I hear that one more time. I was like, exactly. You were not kids. You were 23 years old.
Yeah.
That is not even remotely being a kid anymore. And again, it's playing into the privilege of like, I mean, and we hear it all the time. Anytime a sexual assault survivor, especially a young girl in high school, has come out against it. You saw it in Ohio. You saw it in Maryville in Missouri.
Right.
You know, these girls try and speak out and they try to get justice. And what happens? It's all about the promising young man, which is where the title comes from, about that article written about that swimmer college guy who raped a girl and got away with it.
Yep.
You know, it's all about how do we forgive the man?
Right.
It's not about how do we heal the victim. How do we forgive this man? Okay. And that's the thing with Bo Burnham's character, because the casting was so brilliant, because he was so unbelievably charming.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
He absolutely was.
I was so entranced by him and just like, oh my God, I would fall in love with him too. And that's
me
like,
too.
But in the scene when she confronts him in the office, it was so perfect because he tries to reason with her, he begs her, and then he threatens her. He does. And he's like, you fucking loser, you dropped out of fucking medical school, you failure. And what does she do? She smiles and she laughs and she walks out the door. Because that's what we do when we get catcalled like that, honestly.
Yeah.
And just I was really glad that he got a little shit. He got scared. He didn't really, nothing really happened to him though. He didn't really suffer any consequences.
You know, he just kind of
could have actually saved her or at least helped the investigation.
Yeah.
I assumed he lost everything though, because when they sent here's why I assumed it. At the end, when the lawyer shipped the phone, the video is on that phone.
Okay.
And I assumed that the lawyer was going to take that to court or do something with everybody involved in that video, because even though we didn't directly see Al's best friend get arrested, he skipped off. My assumption in my mind was everybody in that video was going to get theirs regardless, and he's going to lose his license because he's involved in this. Oh, this is Al, he's this big time person marrying this big time person, and he's involved in this video, and so is blase blase blah, and they were all going to lose everything.
Right. Yeah. And I
go
ahead, Brian.
I guess for me, can people grow and change? Yes, they totally can.
Right.
I think for me though, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. I can get it. Like if you have a halfway decent movie, I buy into the premise. I am like picking up what you're putting down, and like halfway through the movie, there's this. You're either with Cassie or like not. Like you're either like you're fully invested in Cassie, and I guess at that point, like you're bringing this stuff up, and I hadn't even thought about that, but like I was just so, I don't know the best way to describe it. I was with Cassie, like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go get these guys. We're gonna do vengeance. We need to go find these people. Yeah. And like at that point, it was like Bo Burnham isn't like a ride or die of like, you know what, I messed up. I'm sorry, I should have done something, and how can I help? But that didn't happen. And like it goes back to what Jess said. I just want to bump it. Like it was this immediate, like traditional male defensiveness of like, oh, please don't do that. And then to like, you're gonna ruin me. And then, well, you know what? Hell with you. I will threaten you. And you never were really, and like it's this like traditional abusive like behavior pattern too, for all those counselors that listen. So it's like I didn't get there. If you do want to talk about growth though, I would point to the lawyer, which I still don't know how I feel about that entire sequence.
Alfred fucking Molina coming in hot.
Oh my God.
Nowhere. Dr. Octopus.
No, man, I have loved him since Maverick. Remember that movie with Mel Gibson where he played a poker player? Such a like old comfort film for me. And he plays such a good villain in that movie.
Yeah, for sure.
God.
Oh my God. Good heist movie, by the way, for anyone
also
listening.
Great movie.
Oh,
very underrated.
Well, let me just drop an air horn for Al.
Molina. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Brian. His redemption story is like huge. Like, and
I guess it vibed with me because like we're using the superhero comparison. I'll keep going with it. Like like the redemption hero, like the redemption superhero story is like, I've gone through this crucible and I have emerged stronger and I'm gonna take you down.
Loki.
Right, exactly. And you go to Alfred Molina and he's like, I'm depressed and I have a psychological breaker. What are you here to do? And like
Right.
she has no idea what to do with it. I had no idea what to do with it. Like what is redemption in that context? Like, and he does. So going by your logic, Marcus, that totally checks out. Like, yeah, he wants to do something to make that all tracks. And that would be growth to me, I guess, in that moment.
He outwardly says the minute she's there, he goes, I was expecting for this. This is your day of reckoning, isn't it? Like he knew exactly what was going on and what was supposed to happen. And he was clearly grappling with something in that. I think I just want to again thank Jess for the perspective on our difficulty with Bo Burnham as a character. Cause I think that's really, cause that's something, I mean, in all honesty, I struggled with of like, and I think that speaks again to the writing of like, I fell in love with Bo Burnham just like she did. And so when that happened, I was like, no, not Bo Burnham too. Like I was just these moments of like, not, but he said all those funny things and he's so cute. Like why? And he's fucking tall. Did you notice how tall he was?
Yeah, that man is,
he's a giant.
Okay. Wait, I have to Google because I'm like, is
Or
he
is she
Conan
that
O'Brien
tiny?
tall?
Either she's tall, I don't know, but he looks
Oh my
like
god,
a
he's 6'5".
Yeah,
he's
okay.
tall.
Tall
He
man.
is tall.
That's not
Yes.
fucking around.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's good perspective for us to have.
I'd climb him like a tree.
Yeah. I would have. And when he says "I love you" and she says it back, and he goes, "Oh man, I'm gonna buy you a bicycle." I legitimately laughed out loud, and I was like, "You could buy me one
charming.
too." Yes.
Okay, but I love that you brought up the scene though where like we're all so sad that he turns out to be a shitty guy.
Right.
Because one of the other things I thought about this movie after I watched it was, my God, I wish I would have seen this in a packed theater on a Friday night where none of us knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And the collective gasp that would have come out in that moment when you hear his voice on the video, I was just like, oh, like it knocks the breath out of you.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, God, I wish I could have just experienced this movie with a crowd of strangers. And it's again, when people talk about, you know, why are movie theaters important and why is going to the movies important? And I'm like, movies like this prove how amazing a theater going experience could be. And so that was something that I was like, I was kind of sad when I thought about it because I miss going to the movies so much. But
not movies like Tenet. Tenet didn't prove shit.
Tenet can go straight to hell. I don't give a shit if
I still haven't seen it. I still haven't watched it.
Jessica, he's filmed that shit forwards and backwards.
He filmed it. He spent $800 million filming that shit forwards and backwards.
Forwards and backwards.
I'm just not like.
I definitely appreciate that. Yeah. And I also want to hear from Doug because I know that he has a lot of
we've been
but I appreciate that perspective, and I do want to be honest in my while I may be black and I understand that kind of struggle, I am not a woman. I do not have the intersectionality of being a black woman, and what was one of the things I mentioned to Doug was one of my uglies. And when we get there, that'll be one of my uglies. If this was a perspective from a woman of color, how differently would this movie flow? How differently would this, like, if they put it from the perspective of Laverne Cox or Gail, and Gail being the one to go through this, how differently does this movie change the identities, the idea of payback? What does that look like? The trauma, how much deeper does it go? And so it's like, for me as a black man, I can, you can be like, man, I'm black and, like, I get it. No, I will never be able to understand that. And that is why I have this natural, like the whole time I almost threw the fuck up when he was kissing on her in the beginning.
In the bed.
It made me turn, and it made me like, I really just felt like I was going to just throw the fuck up. Like every time that it happened. And it just, and just kudos to the direction of this movie. And kudos to the lead being able to get this off and just make it feel and really teach me a lesson. I'm still learning in my privileges as a man, and I'm still learning altogether. So for these things to make me feel a kind of way, this movie did what it was supposed to.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people will say that this movie was not, I'm not the audience for this movie. Maybe
no, anyone's the audience.
it's for everybody, and that is what's most important, because it's either going to call you on your bullshit, and like Brian said, you're either going to be on board, or you're going to try to make an excuse and feel bad and justify the things that happened to her, which is also victim blaming, gaslighting, whatever it is that you want to, whatever it is you want to put in there.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's like such an important point to make about it's the Natalie Holloway thing, right? Of like this beautiful blonde teenager goes missing in Puerto Rico or wherever they were, the Caribbean, I think. And, it was like the whole nation up in arms about this beautiful white blonde girl that's gone missing, right? And it's always marginalizing any women of color that ever go missing. Yeah. Because it's just, it's not picturesque. It's not, some beautiful tiny white girl, like the fragility of the white girl and everything like that. But the movie kind of plays off that, because it is point. That sort of stunted American view of, oh my God, she was such a promising young woman. She was this beautiful, brilliant girl going to college, going to medical school, top of her class and everything. And she, tragically ended her life and things like that. So again, it's playing into the sympathies also of, I think, the audience. And it is just a fucked up, it's just institutional racism, honestly, at play of, making us mourn over a white woman than a black woman, because that's just essentially how the media feeds itself. Right. So
yeah,
I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's totally true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doug Wagner.
Yeah.
Let's hear from you.
Yeah. I'm going to approach my bad in a different way, because as we've mentioned before, this is a good movie. Everybody should watch it. It's for everybody. I want to take and say that the bad is higher education did not look good in this particular film.
Ooh, I want to hear from both of you guys on this.
I have notes. Go ahead.
So
give it to him.
Oh, of course you do.
As someone who works in higher ed, let's just say that the dean, as shocking as the dean's response of, well, it's just, there was nothing to follow up on, and it was just a case of a he said, she said, as much as we would like to write that off as like that never happens, that shit happens all the time. Like, and deans and people in places of leadership probably don't do that. That is more common than I think most of the public would admit. Now, I think most of us assume that the institutions we work at wouldn't take it that way, but the bureaucracy of higher education is you follow up on it until you can't follow up anymore. And sometimes that comes sooner than other people would hope. And so higher ed had a massive stain with Walker was the dean of the medical school.
Yep.
She played that really, it's more of it's like a good, but the effects were bad. But yeah, like it was bad. Like that whole look of
it felt real.
Yeah,
like
that was
felt,
that to me was that to me has happened
it felt
somewhere.
Real.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't have a ton of bad for this movie. I really like it. It hits so well, I think. But if I were to say, if I was pushed to give constructive feedback like that, I would expand the higher ed portion, just because I feel that is such an arena that I've worked at, for people that listen, I've worked at multiple higher ed institutions. I have seen the evolution of Title IX from 2010 to now, which is about 10 years. And I think the best way I can say it is that it never really feels anyone gets it right. It always feels like this hot potato. And I'm not saying that's any institution's fault. It's also the laws and how we also structure our local and national and state laws, and how a lot of systems are slated against the survivor in an assault. Which
because the system was built around a certain look, feel, demographic, age, etc.
Yes, exactly. And I guess for me, like, I think so. Emerald, by the way, I had no idea that Emerald Fennell here, like, she
She
I
does
didn't, I had no
Killing
idea.
Eve. This was her very first film, by the way, that she's ever directed.
And she knocked it out of the park to me. Like,
pretty amazing.
So, like, honestly, like, if I was in that position, I'd be like, I'd extend that higher ed sequence because there's
Just
a
a
lot
hair.
more you can dig in here that is just so messed up, and how, like, if you're at a private institution, which I'm assuming that medical institution was based on the way it looked, like, there's a lot more like that private institutions can do to say, like, well, we looked into it and we're done, and things like that do happen. I do want to boost Doug. There are institutions where I absolutely believe that happened, where if someone asked about it, it's just, well, we talked to the person and we moved on, and we didn't have enough evidence.
Do you know
there's
how
always an
concerning
excuse.
it is that she said that there are 1 or 2 of those accusations
a week?
Yeah.
Like, do you understand? Like,
that means you need to shut that motherfucker down.
I mean, that's
right
why,
now.
Brian, I have to assume it's a private institution, because if it were a public institution and they were reporting 1 or 2 accusations, not even like confirmed, but 1 or 2 investigations into allegations of sexual assault weekly, and that was a public institution. Fuck, like that would have been someone would have shown up and been like, we don't know what's happening, but no, like, you can't do this anymore.
Well, yeah, and the other thing too here is, like, even just diving into, like, how cumbersome those processes can be, and how the system makes people complicit.
They are.
I mean, that too, like, and some people want to do the right thing, like whether it's a professor or a student, they're like, hey, like, I saw this and I need something to be done about it. And then it's like, well, here's the system, and then it has to go through here, and then by law we have to hear this, and by then we'd have to do this.
When it's all said and done, you'll tell your story 5 times and it may or may not be resolved,
which is also incredibly traumatizing to the survivor. Exactly, so if you're a survivor and you have to tell your story to 5 people, maybe law enforcement, and then the dean, possibly a Title IX coordinator, and then maybe an assistant Title IX coordinator on top of that, it's incredibly traumatizing that you just don't want to do it anymore, which plays into this whole thing of, like, that's why people don't tell their story. And
I was going to say, or why they just don't even report it.
Exactly.
It's just not worth it.
So like, that is honestly my only, like, constructive feedback, like, with this is, like, I think you could have dived into that and it would have dovetailed really well into talking about Nina and how, like, no one believed her, and how the system played into that, and how these other people made her feel like that, of how she was isolated and like being fragmented in real time, like, and feeling this loss of self. And that's part of the system that we have right now. We don't have good recourse when it comes to survivors.
It's still growing, and thankfully the previous administration, and I can say that, didn't do a lot to help it, and we can only hope that the future administration does some more. But we are not
Dr. Joe Biden.
We're not a political podcast.
Just a sane podcast.
Yeah, right. Just rational.
Got some goddamn sense.
So, and I think so maybe this is a good time for us to transition into what we call the ugly, Jess, and that's just maybe their directing choices or writing choices or acting choices that we maybe would have done differently. And maybe this is a good transition for that, with Brian saying, if he might accept
that's actually a good point.
Scene a little bit more. Is there anything, Jess, that you can think of after watching this that maybe you would have done a little bit differently, or an extra scene maybe that you would have added, or just anything in that realm of possibility?
The one thing that kind of like was like scratching me the whole time as I was watching it was that it was never clearly stated what happened to Nina. Like, I honestly was waiting for some ending scene, like not ending scene, but scene toward the end where Cassie goes and visits her in like a mental institution and she's catatonic or something. And like this whole time she's been doing this act of revenge, and she's taking the notebook and going to show it to Nina and like explain to her what she's doing. But Nina is like obviously just like not even getting it. But in her mind, it's like this torch she's carrying for this friend who's still alive. Right. And I thought it was really going there, because when she goes to see Molly Shannon playing mother, she's like, it's not good for you. It's not good for Nina. You need to move on. And I'm like, oh, is Nina like somewhere? Like she's still alive?
That's a good
and
point.
then it's just kind of tossed in that she killed herself. And I was like,
And
again,
feels
it's
very
about
after the
like
fact.
it's about silencing the victim in a way that
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh yeah.
I kind of would have liked to known a little bit more about Nina and
Yeah.
like her after the assault and like when did she kill herself, and I guess I wanted the gory details in a way
I'm with
that
you.
weren't given.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing when I walked away I was kind of like, that was kind of like a throwaway letdown that I felt like could have been
Sure.
and it would have been an interesting way for there still to be a survivor. Like,
Yeah.
even though at that point it's like, what is the quality of her life? But she's still there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was just the one thing that I remember, like, just being bothered by. But I did love the film, and it has very few faults, I will say.
Yeah.
Can I riff off of that really quick, Doug?
Point. Please, Brian.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, Jess, because I feel like it could have been something really powerful where even like maybe we could have thought Nina wasn't there or she did pass away, but then it gets to a point where like Cassie is like, I'm doing all this stuff for you, and she's like, can you stop? Like you
Right. Yeah.
you need to move on. Like you are having this revenge thing. This is you. And is this how like the whole movie, right, is carry on revenge too, which I think it does pretty well. Like, and that's a whole other point, but like I feel like that could have been something that was explored and how we're talking about moving on. I don't have any perfect answers here. I'm just really enjoying that idea, Jess, and that's all I wanted to use my time with, Doug. So I'll throw it back to you.
That's totally fine. Marcus, anything that maybe from a director's perspective or from a choices perspective as far as the movie's concerned that you would do differently?
I'm gonna say no because as a director, I wouldn't know how to tell the story because I feel like I'm not in those shoes. So for me, there isn't. Everything seemed to be, at least from my perspective, justified. The turning of Bo Burnham, the showing the sleazy, greasy guys, showing how quote unquote nice they are, showing her and everything that she went through. I will agree with Jess that more of Nina make me not fall in love, but make me build this relationship with Nina or this something with her, this connection with her that would get me not more on board, but also just would be like, man,
more sympathy.
Good person. Yeah, just more sympathy because it became too much about Cassie and how she's facing her trauma and not enough about how Nina's gone. And they didn't do that until the end of the movie to show that she was dead. She's not still here, still traumatized, doesn't want to come out the house. She is dead. She's gone. And I just feel like I understand that you go through trauma and with Bo Burnham and they're building this relationship, her explaining that to him, like, hey, do you remember Nina? This is what this has got going, especially when she got caught. I thought she was going to be like, hey, let me explain it to you. This is what happened, blase, blase, blah. This is how I'm feeling. This is why I'm doing the things that I do.
Yeah.
And then give me the little fun love Paris Hilton montage. Because then the moment that Bo gets caught, then I feel more like, what the fuck, Bo? Like, she told you about Nina and you still did this Paris Hilton little shit in the fucking store. Like, fuck you, Bo. And like, then I've been more on board. But anything else other than that, everything felt justified. Laverne Cox was like in this weird position of like they really just kind of pigeonholed her to this coffee shop set.
Yeah.
It felt kind of weird. But I mean, but it's not like a big deal, but it just felt weird that she was just kind of just that, like just there. But I mean, other than that, I think I'm good. I think I'm cool.
I will say that the things that I want more of are similar to that whole, like, I want to know more about them. I want to know more about Cassie and Nina when they were in college, because they allude to it when Bo and Cassie are on their first date. He says, you were so much smarter than me in medical school. And they kind of leave it there. And it just piqued my curiosity, like, shit, like, how much smarter? Like, and was this were they just a dynamic duo and they were just, like fooling everybody and being out, leading the pack, so to speak? And that's what I want to know more of, because it's just piqued my curiosity on that end. I also I think I would have appreciated, because I kept, as they were talking, as Bo and as Ryan and Cassie were talking at the beginning of their relationship, I remember, like going, just be honest. Like there was this piece of like, I really just wanted honesty there of like,
Yeah.
you know, and then it makes that deceit on the other end sting a little bit more, if that makes sense. Or I'm maybe again thinking or making that assumption of like, if they are putting all their cards at the table at the beginning of the relationship, and then he comes out that he's been hiding this one piece, you know, that level of deceit and lie, that stakes gets raised a little bit more. That is fucking nitpicky, like really, really, really. I mean, I'm criticizing brush strokes at this point in time of what is an outstanding movie. So it seems really stupid to get that nitpicky, but those are just two things that come to mind.
I think it just this is her first outing, you said, Jess?
Yeah.
This is her first feature she's directed. Yes.
I mean, like, that's
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing debut.
Sure.
Like, I mean, we're getting into the weeds here of like, you could have made us like Nina. Like, I mean,
yeah,
I feel like that speaks for itself in that regard of just like how complete of a movie this is and the beats of it. I can't speak highly of it enough.
Yeah,
a good point.
Which again now really carries us home, and Brian's leading the way with transitions today. Is this movie worth the price of admission? Now, again, the price of admission for us was a $20 rental.
Oh, it was hefty. I was not expecting $20.
Yeah, it was a $20 rental. Or if you're in a place where theaters are open, it's the cost of a movie ticket.
Yeah.
Quick round table. I'm going to go ahead and make an assumption and just chime in if you disagree, because that might be easier. Worth the price of admission, I would assume.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And a movie ticket in New York City is $21. So renting it for that's just like at your shitty local theater. That's not even IMAX. IMAX is like at least $25.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You're blowing these South Dakota minds right now.
New York City.
I was gonna say in Chicago,
$6.
I could have seen this probably for like 15. Like if I went like during my free time and like
if I went on a matinee on a Tuesday.
If I went for a matinee on a Tuesday, maybe I'm looking at 12.
Yeah.
Like
that's
7
that
if I'm
South Dakota.
lucky.
That's that South Dakota privilege, because if we were in regular normal times, non-corona, a movie ticket up here is $8.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wait, like
no IMAX. Support your local theaters. Shout out
support,
to
support Vermillion Theatres.
I almost always do.
Yes.
No, that's huge. I'm shocked. But anyway, that says something. If a ticket's $21 and you would see this in theaters, hell yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
That's absolutely worth the price.
There's a reason I used to be so broke before COVID, because I went to the movies like twice a week. It is an expensive habit.
You're living the dream.
It does. Going to the movies is an expensive habit. That's why when I go, I want to go either with people that I like and can enjoy a movie with, or by myself.
Yeah,
I can go by myself anytime, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Don't need people talking to me. It's like, shut up, I'm watching the movie.
Yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 people that I can see a movie with, and that's like, and one of them is my wife, and that's like it. Otherwise, it's
2 of them are my sisters.
Yeah.
So.
I feel that.
Well, this movie is available most places, for most digital rental places, for that premium or early access price of, like I said, $20. It is showing in some select theaters that are open if it is safe for you to go. I think Jess made an awesome comment earlier of like, I agree. I would love to see the reaction of the audience in a theater of some of these reveals. So
love it.
If you can see it safely in a theater, maybe do that and then, tweet at us or Facebook us or hit us up on Instagram and let us know how that reaction was for some of these reveals. Would be fantastic. Any other final thoughts on Promising Young Woman before we close it out? Mr.
I do.
Roush?
I just real quick, 2 things. I've been thinking about your Iron Man comparison for about an hour now. And
of course,
if we're going to jump back there really quick. And it's almost like apples and oranges to me, man, because like,
no, it is apples and oranges. It's not like that. It is that.
I don't know. This movie, I think that I didn't have a good place to say this, so I'll say this here. Like this movie, like really tapped into this visceral feeling I have of like I'm gonna right a wrong, and that's why I was totally with Cassie the whole time. Like if I was her friend and she'd be like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to this bar. I need XYZ," I'd be like, "Okay, I'll get it." Like let's go get these dudes. Like let's go get these dirt bags. And so just really relating to her story of like I want to make this right by any means necessary, and then having that ending of like knowing everything that she's gone through compared to like a comic book movie. It's like I can't even level close. It. I would say like I was both sad both of those characters had a hero's ending. I think I don't know. That's where my thoughts lay on that. But I just want to say like
I was just using it as the point of comparison of like, again, there's a lot of outrage over someone, sacrificing themselves and not just picking themselves up by their bootstraps.
Right.
And yet in other movies, we see that happen all the time of people laying down themselves for the greater good. And we don't question it, but it's someone dealing with significant trauma that's impacting not just their like every once in a blue moon life, their daily life. This is all she thinks about. She has every day. There were images of her staring at a screensaver of just images of her and Nina. This like fucked her up mentally and pretty permanently. And so your point is absolutely accurate, Brian. There's no comparing those two things. I was just trying to make the point of like, in some circles, it's acceptable for us to say, yes, this is okay. But in others, it is not. And that seems inconsistent to me.
And for the record, I was emotional on both points.
Oh, sure. I think, Brian, we all cried at the snap. Okay. So you don't, we
like
all
it
did.
was, but I just wanted to add that.
I think something very interesting now that's just kind of percolating from that thought is like, I think one of the interesting theses to take away from the movie is like what people are capable of.
Yes.
And the idea of, what is a girl or a woman capable of in a very kind of unsettling, scary way to a lot of men, I'm sure, who watched the movie were genuinely scared and didn't realize the, what we're willing to do, because I absolutely identified with Cassie of like, if that happens to my best girlfriend in college and she killed herself, I think I would be out for blood, honestly. And I think I would have as much of a sort of like Kill Bill vendetta as she does. I don't know if I would have been smart enough to carry it out the way she did or brave enough, because she gets herself into some really dangerous situations. Because you see what she's capable of in the same way that you see what these nice guys are capable of, and what this Dean is capable of, and what Alison Brie's character Maddie was capable of. It's about a film that makes you feel kind of icky because it shows the worst parts of us in whatever way. Like as much as Cassie is the heroine, she's a pretty terrible person, and is not really like someone you'd want to be friends with, and it infects her, like literally her obsession infects her. So it shows like the level that she'll go to and what she's capable of.
For
same way that Bo Burnham is capable of literally turning a 180 in 2 seconds and threatening her. And Al is capable of going from playful whatever to literally murdering her. And so it's just I just like when movies do that. I always have liked movies that show us the ugliest parts of ourselves. And I think it really did that.
And I think the other thing is that in most cases, and I think you make an excellent point of like, in most cases, men would feel, I think the intent of this is that men feel bad for the nice guys in this, that they're just misunderstood and it's a confusing situation. And there's only one person in Cassie's wrath that I felt sorry for. And it was for one moment. And it was Missy, it was Alison Brie's character. I felt bad for her. I felt bad for Maddie for a moment. Because again, the moral high ground of Cassie's character this whole time is no one should have to be put through that. So what did she do? She put her through it. And I get that the point
temporarily. That was the big.
Scared the shit out of her though.
Right.
Oh my
so
gosh.
that was the only
God.
person, because when those frantic phone calls and text messages kept coming in, I was
Right.
like, holy shit. Like
Right.
this is like
Right.
I feel bad.
But that
for
was
her.
also growth on
Right.
Cassie's part.
Yes.
That Cassie told her
Yeah.
the truth and was like, nothing happened. I did it to scare you. And
Right.
like, would she have done that if she hadn't have been in that relationship
sure.
with Bo Burnham?
Yeah,
That's a
for
good
sure.
point.
Yep.
Growth.
Yep.
Growth.
That's a
You know what we
great
call
point.
that?
That's a
Growth.
great point. Well, this
And I want to
has-
make it known that I don't agree, although my questions are my bad. Those were strictly just for content purposes in the podcast and learning moments for anybody else that was having those type of questions. Because I know there are several people that did. I know that there are men who are going to ask, well, damn, can nobody like grow? I wanted to ask those questions on purpose because I
Of
think
course.
we
It was perfect.
hear
No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
to hear that. I mean, I agree. I'm not ever going to, you know how I get down. If you know me, you know me. I'm not going to sit here and over explain myself. So,
Right. But
yes.
I'll also back you up and say, like, I think it's you, again, listeners know this, like, we don't pull any punches, and I'm not going to ask a question just because it's not a clean question, like,
Right.
or an easily to understand question. And I'm glad we discussed it, because at the end of the day, it needed to be, because you're right. There are some guys that are like, whatever, man, guess you can't get over it. Like, it's
Nobody's perfect.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
And so I think it's good that we talked about it. This has been an outstanding
Yes.
conversation. Huge shout out to Jess for joining us on this week's episode.
Yes,
where
thank
we,
you.
Watched Promising Young Woman. That brings us to our time to plug anything that either we are working on or anything that we our friends, loved ones are working on. Jess, not to put you on the spot, but anything that you want to plug or you want to talk about to tell our listeners about?
Oh no! Watch Hannibal. It's the best show
Okay.
of the last 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Let's save
okay.
Hannibal.
All right, there you go. All
Save
right.
Hannibal. Hashtag save Hannibal.
Hashtag save Hannibal. Brian, anything that you'd like to plug or tell people about?
I think I'll use my plug time. So if you listen to this podcast and it brought up some things in you, I'm just going to take this as a PSA. RAIN is a hotline that you can call 800-656-4673, and you can be connected with a trained staff member for a sexual assault service provider in your area. If you need that, and we talked about all this stuff and you need it,
Good call.
you can reach out to them. I just want to give a plug to this great group. Like, I think we tackled some really difficult things, which is a really good movie. Like, go watch this movie. It's probably one of the best of 2020. So
for sure.
that is what I'm going to
Oh,
plug
sure.
today.
That's a fact for
Yep,
sure.
absolutely.
Nice.
Marcus, the one
Huh?
and only. What do you have to plug? Don't act, huh? You're listening. Anything that you want to plug?
Yeah, I just want to echo everything that Brian has said and everything that Doug has said so far. I want to say thank you to Jess for being here tonight. This was amazing, really, really good, solid conversation around a really solid movie.
Sure.
So thank you for coming.
Awesome.
Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know, remember to follow the mantra, never offended, always humble. The Never Offended, Always Humble store will be closing. The link is in my bio. We're going to be closing for a month so we can revamp, put some new clothes up there. So this is your last time to go and buy some things from the website, because you don't know what's coming back and what ain't coming back, okay? And always remember, okay, my mantra, okay, 5 or 500, okay? We are giving the same energy to 5 people that we would for 500 or 5 or 5,000 or 5 or 5 million. So if you ain't supporting us and you just really just like doing whatever you want to do, that's cool. To the 5 people that like every post, repost everything that we post, we are going to give you the same energy as if we are in a room full of 5 million
Sure.
people.
Well
So always
said.
remember that. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
other than that, y'all know what time it is. You know, it's your boy.
What I have to plug is a couple of things. One, I want to shout
it.
out to one Mark Doom, another Cornell grad. You know,
yeah.
he's out here doing the most. Shout out to
Oh.
Mark trying to do
Shout
the
out to
most and
Mark.
watch a movie a day for the entirety of 2021.
Is he really?
Wow,
He was
really?
talking about that in the Discord. He has a Google
Yeah.
spreadsheet with the movies he's watched and their
He shared it
reviews.
with us and everything.
So
Yeah.
he's
That is
he's
some
got that
Edgar
shared in the
Wright level
Discord.
shit right there.
Holy
This
bucket.
is- and so shout out to Mark for doing that. Shout out to, I want to recognize recognize one of the 5 that we want to talk about, which is Chris Schulten's. Chris Schulten's always engaged with us and talk about our stuff too. So shout out to those.
I actually think he got the trivia right on the Instagram too.
He did get the trivia right. The trivia this week, for those of you who follow us on Facebook, Instagram, what have you, the quote is from Black Panther, said by Killmonger. And I just want to plug the podcast. Keep checking us out. Keep listening. We got some big things. Y'all don't want to miss next week's episode. We're not going to tell you what it is, and we're going to play coy and keep it on the DL. But I got to be honest with you.
Doug. No, we're going to tell them what it is. Okay. We're going to tell them what it is right now. We're going to tell them what it is right now.
We're pulling an audible.
Through persistence and through great strength of bargaining, we have secured. So that's absolutely right. For those who listened to last week, we covered the movie Arch Enemy, which was directed by one Adam Egypt Mortimer. Next week, the 3 of us are interviewing Adam Egypt Mortimer for this podcast to talk to him about how he created his film. We're going to talk to him about his what did he call it? The Vortex universe that he wanted to create.
Look, cosmic homework. If he's listening right now, I need to do more
cosmic horror and cosmic superhuman. Cool. So we're going to interview him and talk about just his vision and just get to know him a little bit more. So do not miss it. And again, if you like this shit, if you like this stuff we turn out, follow, subscribe, check us out on Facebook. We're also going to have a social competition for some swag that we got coming. We've got tons of stuff that are coming up. And just don't miss it. Like, hop on board and get following us and get connected. This is an important part of the podcast, and probably one of the most important parts of the podcast. If you want to really enjoy this, watch Jess's face as we go through this. We have a 3-step keys to success for this particular podcast, and I'm going to kick it over to Brian to give us the first key to success. Brian, what do you got?
Read a book, please, to you listeners out there. If you're enjoying this podcast, you like art, I guarantee you, if you like movies, you will like books. I guarantee it. It's like a movie you can make in your mind. Movies. And you get to place people where you want, the lighting, who plays the main characters. You can just conjure up any actor you want. It's a movie in your head. Yeah. And you know what? It's way longer than 2 hours. So just read a book, learn something, visualize something in your head.
Yeah, read a book. Good call. I'm going to take the second one. And the second one is drink some water. It's dry. Okay. Look, your body needs water to succeed, to move nutrients and blood and fat and tissue all around the way it needs to. Just drink a glass. Hey, if you're feeling saucy, drink 2. Soda or pop isn't going to keep you moving. Just drink some water. It's really important that you do so. Marcus, take us home.
Listen, the third key to success. Y'all know what time it is. Brian told you read a book. Doug told you drink some water. Listen, you're drinking too much damn soda. Your piss smells like ammonia. So only imagine what the crack of your ass smells like, okay? So the third key to success is to wash your ass. It is very important. You got your grandmama rags that you call towels in your little thing where you keep your big towels and your little towels. Throw them shits away, okay? You need to go to Walmart and go buy yourself some new towels, okay? They're thick enough that you can wrap around like you're wrapping a Subway sandwich and slide up and down the crack of your ass like a credit card, okay? Because I've had enough. Okay,
Thank you.
If we're gonna get a new president, okay, I need new ass. New president, new ass. New president,
ass 2024. Get on the ticket now.
Clean ass 2024.
Clean ass 2024.
See, Jess gets it. Jess gets it. We need.
I fully support that.
Ass clean. I don't care if you need Dove soap. I don't care if you need apple cider vinegar
or
and just
like Brian and prefer Irish Spring. Just watch what you gotta watch with.
It's my heritage, okay?
Because he's a potato boy.
Anyway, that is so read a book, drink some water, wash your ass. You know the keys, you know the steps to success. In the
wash
meantime,
your ass. Oh my God. Listen, I'm sick of this shit. If we got 45 out of here, y'all next. Because I'm tired of this shit. I'm sick of this shit right here. Boy,
first fascism, then ass smells.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Thank you.
We have loved talking with you again. Huge thanks to Jess for joining us on.
Yes, huge.
No one wonders what Jabba the Hutt's ass smells like.
Nobody ever
yeah.
wonders what Jabba the Hutt's
Does
ass.
he have an ass? I mean, would he have an ass crack?
I don't know.
Ryan?
It looked like it's also his neck.
Brian's the Star Wars expert. Does he?
I don't know.
Well, look, Jess is as like equal. Like
I was empress of our Star Wars
Yeah.
Society at
Like-
Cornell College.
Oh,
no,
Oh.
yes.
Dropping that.
Jess
If
is
anything deserves the air horns, it's that.
no, it's true. It's true. Jess keeps like Jess and I are right here. We are
No
one. it
way.
is-
You have way more knowledge than
This
I
is-
do.
Well, you are being very
Do you
kind.
realize what you've done,
No.
Marcus?
they about to start a fire.
No, it's fine.
Anyway,
All right.
thank you all for listening. Thank you all to
The
Jess
best
for joining us
podcast in
this
the
week.
world.
In the meantime, until we catch y'all next week, stay safe, stay healthy. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all, and we will catch y'all next week.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
Thank you.
Well done.
I'm glad we avoid.
Woo!